Welcome back. I am the great Wendt, joined by T, and
What
this is Live. How we doing today?
And let live. Doing good, man. How you doing?
Oh, dude, I decided to have a couple beers this afternoon, and then I took a nap, and I woke up like an hour ago, and I was all groggy, and so now I'm having coffee, which is going to mean I'm up till 3 or 4 in the morning. Yeah, I just screwed up with the whole rest of the week. But
oh man, those afternoon beers can be a killer sometimes. It's like you got to just plow on through the show and then go pass out. Like you can't just stop and take a nap because it screws up everything. And then to go to coffee, you should be having like coffee and Bailey's or something, so at least you have a little bit of kicker in there. Yeah,
cut it with something.
Exactly.
Oh, man. Well, so we've had a big week with Goose. Tim's hanging out with the Goose people over there, but I tell you what, the main event is going to be, we should call him Weekend Goose. He might show up later at set break, but the main event is next week. The thing we've all been waiting for, anticipation. We were thinking about this before Mexico, where everybody was like, "What's the Sphere going to be?" We know we have the streams now. What are your thoughts? You're going to be heading out there one night, right?
I am beyond excited for it. I haven't been this excited for a Phish show in a really long time. Like New Year's is always New Year's. You're like, yay, New Year's will be fun, but you never know what you're going to get out of it. And Halloween shows, you're anticipating what's the cover going to be, which is always a fun feeling of like anticipation. But this I'm really excited for. A new state-of-the-art venue. It's very rare that you get a new venue, much less this kind of venue, like a once in a right now in the world type venue. Right. So I think that alone is special. And then knowing that they've been planning on doing this for some time and kind of getting their ducks in a row, and why I'm just so excited to see the creativity and what they do and what it's like in there and the whole thing. I'm really excited for it. And I think everybody going is really excited. I've noticed a little bit of a shift in the for a while there. It was, the excitement when it dropped, and then sort of we went through this phase of, oh, the tickets are so expensive. Oh, the festival's coming. I don't need to do this now. And a lot of people were unloading their tickets. And now I feel like we've gotten to the point where now the FOMO is starting to set in a little bit, and people are looking for tickets and trying to get out there and do it and stuff. And I think the webcast will be great. I think that's really obviously what they always do, but I think that'll be fun for people that are couching it and to see what it's like before committing to maybe going next year when they do the run. Right. But
new venues are great, but the Sphere is owned by MSG, so the staff is going to have all the training in place. But I remember the first time they played Deer Creek, I think they were the second show. Those people had no idea. They still didn't have any idea once the show was over and we'd left to go to Alpine. They still had no idea what happened.
Yeah, that's interesting, because again, it's rare. There's a new arena opening out here right next to the Forum, actually, and SoFi, called the Intuit Dome, which is where the Clippers are going to start playing starting next year, starting in August. Actually, they just announced the first show there is going to be Bruno Mars in August. But it got me thinking about that too. I'm like, I wonder what bands will start playing there as opposed to the Forum. Because I mean, the Forum is like, it's built now for concerts. Like it's specifically for that. And so it's like, it's so good and it's so intimate and it's so nice, and then this one
was old.
It's old, but they redid it all to make it like, they refurbished it, redid it, and really made it strictly for concerts, made it really comfortable, made it really cozy. It's nice. Like the sound is great in there. Bruce the other night was fantastic in there. And I know the new place will probably have better sound and like, new tech upgrades, kind of like the Chase Center in San Francisco when I went to Phish. It's a little bit bigger than the Forum. It's one of those 18 size. I think the Forum's like around 14 or something like that. So it is a little bit bigger. And again, I don't know who will play there. I can't imagine Phish playing there because of their love with MSG. And since, like you said, MSG is owned by the Forum. So hopefully they'll continue to go to the Forum until Ballmer, who's the guy that owns the Clippers and the Intuit Dome, also kind of owns the property or whatever that the Forum is on. So there's talk about him wanting to scuttle it and just have his arena and turn that into a parking lot for SoFi. So we'll see what happens.
The Clippers are going to be playing the new one and the Lakers are going to be playing the old one?
Yeah, the Lakers and the Kings will stay at Staples, at crypto.com arena now, but it'll always be Staples to me. And then the Clippers are moving over to this one.
But you only have one stadium for the two football teams.
Yeah, they both play at SoFi. Yeah, for now. But I mean, the Chargers shouldn't even be here. The Rams, I get, like they, whatever. But the Chargers moving up from San First of all, why would you ever want to leave San Diego for LA? Other than I get money and the TV rights, but that's just all owners being greedy. It's so stupid that the Chargers are up here. But yeah,
it is. It is. And it's so stupid for the Raiders to be in Vegas, but when you have CK5 lighting up the night.
We're gonna tell SC Springsteen was amazing, and Kev and I, we can actually talk because Kev, you did say you saw him a while ago as well, and it's one of those things. Like I said, I don't do bucket lists, but it's one of those things I've wanted to do forever. I can't believe I've never seen him live, and he is he's a master. What a show! I mean, besides being a showman himself, playing for 3 hours and 17 minutes straight, no break, is just phenomenal. And I mean, the guy, I get it because you watch his fans and they remind me a lot of my love of the Dead and my love of Phish. Like they love Bruce and they sing the songs and they know all the words and they get so emotional and excited. And it's awesome. I mean, I can't recommend it enough. If you have the means, and go see him. And who knows how much longer he's going to be around. Like I tell you, him and Mick Jagger right now, when they're done, there's going to be a big hole in rock and roll and live music because those guys are just the ultimate performers, and the fact that they're still doing it in their late 70s is phenomenal. I mean, I'd love to see what Jerry would have looked like these days out there performing at that age.
I think Jerry would have made it another 10 years and that was it.
Yeah, I don't know, these days with the surgeries and stuff, the thin down and stuff, who knows? He could have like got a new lease on life and like everyone got healthy, kicked the habit, and started living the healthy life like some of these other rock stars do these days and gone for another 25, 30.
The thing that jumped out at me, because you sent me the set list, was in 2014, I guess, is when I saw him. Tom Morello was his guitarist the whole tour. You got him coming out for the Ghost of Tom Joad, which is one of Springsteen's darkest, heaviest tunes. And then I guess 41 Shots he came out for too.
Yeah, right? He came out in the middle of 41 Shots, which was really cool and kind of did that. And then they went into Tom Joad, and man, he sang part of it with it. He totally went full rage with his with the guitar and the finger tapping and the oh man, it was, and I mean that got the crowd up and going because I mean he's kind of the hometown hero, like everyone, so it was. That was awesome. That was really
such a weird. At first glance, when you hear that he was touring with him back then, you're like, "That's a weird pairing," but it really worked because I think fundamentally they're coming from the same place,
exactly,
like politically, and
That's exactly what I thought too when he's up there. I was like, they have that same view of the world and feeling, and sort of that feeling of like rock history in them and just that whole thing. And it really worked well. And you could see he enjoyed it too. Like it was really fun. It was very cool.
Tom Joad there's a bunch of old blues songs, maybe even a Woody Guthrie song that mentions it. So that in itself too has a whole history that it evokes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's like you said, one of his darker sort of, and it almost reminds me of a Hunter song, right? Because it's that storytelling, that mythos, that sort of that feeling, and a lot of Bruce songs are kind of in that vein too, like off of the popular ones, obviously, but like some of his other ones do have that Americana in them, which I'm always a big fan of, like when you're singing from your heart and telling those stories, and that's all Bruce is about. So yeah, it was really cool. Really cool. Oh, the new sax player too is actually, he's not new anymore. He's been there since, I looked this up after the show because I thought it was Clarence Clemens' son. It's actually Clarence Clemens' nephew, and he's been with him since 2012, which I didn't even realize Clarence had been gone that long. But he rips. I mean, it's so perfect. Like it's such a family band, right? Like Niles and little Stevie and his wife. Max Weinberg, like it's just, they're so good. I mean, go see him. I can't say enough about it. Like,
it's one of those ones you gotta check.
Hey, he even played with Phish, so right, like there's even the Phish crossover thing at Bonnaroo that they did together. So, which is even cooler. So, I mean, he's definitely he's in there.
So what is this? Yeah, I had the good transition there.
I know I messed it up.
So has he been have they been letting him play with the Sphere pre-show or something?
No, what it is, and this is really interesting. I don't know how many of you saw this, but Kuroda and Andrew Giffen have been working together to transform the Rio Hotel in Vegas, which isn't the same as it used to be. It used to be a really fun party spot. It's kind of gone downhill these days, but I think they're trying to like revitalize it and stuff. But they've installed these LEDs. It's I think it's like over it's I can't remember how many there are, but it's Kuroda's doing the LEDs, programming the lights to do these visual art pieces. And they run about 10 minutes that are like slow and evolving. And then after that 10-minute run, there's another 10-minute. They're saying there's about 60 different looks of it. So like maybe like an hour or so of different lights that go on through it, which is really crazy. And just kind of speaks to, I guess, it makes me even trust more what they're going to do with the Sphere, because it shows like Kuroda isn't just doing concert lighting design, right? Like he's kind of expanded in doing these other projects, and this
he
is
does
really
the Rangers,
cool.
right? Hasn't he been doing the Rangers for a while?
Yeah. So it's very interesting. I was really surprised to read about that, and I'm not sure it's going to be ready when we get out there for the Sphere shows, but yeah, he's been working on it, and it's supposed to be coming through, and it's supposed to be like this whole, never before seen, and like every pixel apparently has been programmed to do something. So I don't know. We'll see. Again, it's just speaking to his genius and seeing him kind of evolving into other things. So it's very cool.
Yeah. And they all like to be, they all like to evolve. They all want to try new things. Like Trey busting out the orchestra again.
The slow roll of the tour dates. I feel like he's like goosing us with these tour dates. He's like, oh, here's another one, and then here's another one, and oh, by the way, I'm just going to do this whole tour with these orchestras. Which
I bet it's a pain. I mean, if you've ever heard Zappa talk about getting an orchestra together and having to pay them just to do the rehearsal full freight, and then so there's probably a lot more logistics in Trey getting that together.
And I know our good friend Matt used to talk about the same thing with Bobby doing some of those orchestra shows and what it took to line those up and get those done and do those. And, they always sound great and they're always super fun and super interesting to see. But yeah, it's got to be kind of, to do those rehearsals, especially, have to be a little bit more painstaking for everyone involved. But I'm assuming for Trey, it's one of those things where it's super exciting and exhilarating. And he loves imparting that creativity into those people, so I'm sure he doesn't mind the rehearsals at all, and actually probably enjoys that process of it. Again, that old Denzel quote: "What do you love about the process? The process." And I think Trey is one of those guys that loves every step of the way getting to the show.
What are the dates on these things?
Oh man, I don't even know. I don't know. Like I think
is it after summer tour?
I believe. I think they're in June, aren't they? I can't even remember. I'll see if I can
the reason I'm asking is, I'll throw this out here to you. Okay, Trey does these orchestra shows and he bothers to learn petrichor again or time turns elastic because he wants to do it. Does that start showing up? Does that show up on summer tour because he bothered to relearn it for the orchestra?
That's a tough one to answer, because I would say yes. Normally, I would say yes, definitely. But it's Trey, and he always zigs when you think he's going to zag anyway. And he's got those 3 other guys in the band that are like, now we're not playing that, right? Like, now we're not going to do that. We're going to stick to these songs or whatever, and the orchestra is a little bit easier because he can be like, no, we're going to play these, and this is what I want us to play. So I don't think so, but you never know. I mean, it could definitely.
SE is low-key telling us it's in June.
That's what I thought it was.
Yes, I am planning on trying to go. I love Wolf Trap. Anybody who's never been to Wolf Trap, it is, you take in your cheese and wine with you, have a sandwich. I just wouldn't suggest smoking the marijuana because it's a federal park and it's still very illegal in the federal government's eyes to be smoking the marijuana.
I love those kind of places. That's like the Hollywood Bowl. You can like bring in food. They even have food there that you can buy, and bottles of wine you can buy and stuff like that. And you kind of like sit and like listen to the orchestra and do that. It's like a really nice event to do. I love that kind of thing. It's very fun.
Like Steely. I saw Phish there back in '93,
really?
I guess. But yeah, I saw Steely Dan there. Nice. Seen a bunch of bluegrass, like Alison Krauss did a package tour once. Bluegrass is great there. The acoustics in the place are.
And that's kind of the bands you get in those kind of places, right? Like those kind of like smaller venue fun bands.
The Zydeco tour will come through there with like all the big Zydeco names kind of thing,
It's great. So, yeah, I agree.
Rounder Records used to do those package tours. Yeah, we're gonna get up to that.
We're gonna
Randy.
get to that, Randy. Don't worry, it's coming up. It's one thing we're gonna talk about. I'm excited for it though, for sure.
But we do have sad news about Goddard closing. I guess it's sad. I could give a shit, but without Goddard, we wouldn't have Phish. Find it interesting because I mean, you know, I always bitch. I'm like, colleges cost so much. These colleges make a fortune, but maybe they don't make a fortune if, you know, if Goddard is closing, because that was so expensive. I applied to there for graduate school, and that place cost a lot of money.
It's interesting though. You know, you would think with some of the alumni and stuff chipping in and like things, but I guess it comes a point that it's not financially viable to stay in business. Right. But it's always sad to see an education place close down, right? Like you're losing something with that. You're losing the arts. You're losing that wisdom that was there. With
all the, can we buy up the property? Can we like have the Wook pet compound up there and just buy the whole campus?
Exactly. I was wondering that too, because some of those buildings got to be, you know, not old, cool. Nice. Yeah. And so like, what do you do with that? Is it, I'm sure someone's going to come in and either buy the land and, you know, or like turn those into,
it'll be a golf course and houses within 2 years.
I mean, there's enough things you could do with it, but that's a really good question. I don't know, but yeah, it would be fun to.
I mean, the building where they played their first show, that should have like historic status or something. Can we get a plaque out front? You know?
Totally. I mean, where they first like met and where they played and where like things, you know, like certain, like there should be like the Trey tour at that place anyway, that kind of shows you around, you know?
Right. How much did they charge for the Cornell tickets? Dead and Company. Phish should do that. And they should charge that much.
You know what? They should have done like benefit shows there, right? And charge that much and got people to come in and pay some money to keep it afloat. Because who wouldn't go there for like a, you know,
$5,000 for one song down in that basement where they first started. You get one and then they haul in the next group.
That's it. They could have put on a little Goddard festival though, right? Like gotten some of those jam bands in there and saved the school. It's sad.
You come out, you're like, what'd you get, man? What song? You're like, Poor Heart, man. Fuck. Dude, I got a tweezer.
It's great. It's awful though. I mean, it's a bad thing. It's nothing, you know. I wonder how Trey feels about that. I mean, he's got to feel a little sadness in there, a little like, you know, a part of you is no longer going to be available. What's that?
I feel like Trey is so out of reality and the loop of the rest of the world that he might not even know that it's happening, you know?
I'm sure it's come across as, you know, his eyes.
They sent out some mail. He got some in the mail. Please help.
That's the part that he probably never saw. He's probably got a stack from them that he's like, oh man, I never opened any of those like alumni benefit things that I should have been paying attention to over the years.
Damn it.
Exactly. Like it's tough though. I mean, I don't know. It's, you know, it's sad. Seeing the picture of the college, you're kind of like, oh man, it's a cool looking place. It's sad to see it go. So we'll see what happens with it though in the future.
80 years, but you know, stuff doesn't last forever. You can't. I remember when I was a little kid, I used to like, that place is always going to be there. Like Pappy's, right. There was a pizza place, you know, and when Pappy's eventually became a Chi-Chi's and then became a Chick-fil-A, you know, but when you're a kid, you're like, this is the world, you know, nothing's ever going to
change. And then, as Joni Mitchell's saying, they pave paradise and put up a parking lot, and everything goes away, and you're like, God damn.
Like, Chi-Chi's was the beginning of bad Mexican food all over the place. Did you ever have a Chi-Chi's where you lived?
No.
They like invented the deep fried burrito. And the taco salad bowl that was like the crispy taco chip was the bowl. That was all came from them.
All from nothing like franchise restaurant Mexican food. I mean,
right. Exactly. And Pappy's was the best. It had Pappy's, the kitchen had this huge glass wall so you could watch them make the pizza. And all the little kids would stand there and you'd watch them make your pizza. It was, and like pitcher beer, you know, pitchers of warm beer and shit.
Yes. Now that's the pizza joint that you like. Like that's the one that you like, that, you know, and throw a little sawdust on the floor those kind of places. Like, oh man, those were the best. And like the red cups that were like the weird like thing with the crushed ice and cokes. Oh man.
Yeah, the ice, that crushed ice, air ice, because it was like so light.
Yep. Yeah. But they'd fill up the cup like all the way to here the ice and then put the shit in. So like it was it was so funny. Ugh. That's terrible though. Like when you start losing those
Back
kind
in
of
my
places.
day.
Back in my day.
We did not have a Shakey's Pizza, SC. I do know that's the buffet place, right?
Yeah, we never had we had Shakey's, but it was always like Pizza Hut was always above like Shakey's. So like I was a Pizza Hut kid.
In the hierarchy.
In the hierarchy of that. Like it was always when I was a little kid, parents would take you to Pizza Hut. And then once I got in high school, man, the personal pan pizzas for lunch was like a mainstay. That was like the best. It's like $5 Coke personal pan pizza. Oh, those were the days. Those were the days.
Right. But Pizza Hut was trying to burn you though. They put that like steaming hot that pan, like you could just see like the heat coming off it. They set it on the table and be like, "Here you go."
But I always like those they weren't quite deep dish, but they weren't thin crust either. They were kind of in between, and I always liked those. I loved Pizza Hut's like style of pizza. They were so greasy and good stuff. I digress. Uh-oh. You there? There you are. You were frozen for a second. Good. Godfathers. I remember Godfathers. Yes, they had some great ads.
I think at one point.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. At one point, Pizza Hut like had a 20% share of the market for pizza in the country.
Oh yeah. Dude, those Huts were everywhere. Like, and it was like that was even too when like sort of it was accepted family dining at those kind of places. You know, like families would go eat at a Pizza Hut for dinner and stuff. And it wasn't like considered fast food. And, it was like an actual restaurant. So it was crazy.
It's still not a vegetable in sight.
Right? Like, yeah, exactly.
Oh, we had green peppers on the pizza. That was the vegetable.
That's right. I always like a good, either if I can find a decent lot burrito, I'll do that after a show. But I always like finding the pizza guys, the good pizza guys. Those are the best.
Yep. So
and they did have a salad bar. I see. You're right. Yes, they did have a salad bar, and with the cough thing over it. But like, if you got there early, it was still in good shape. But if you got there late, shit was everywhere, and the dressing had shit in it, and like it was just so bad.
Trying to skim around the cherry tomato floating in the ranch.
Yep. I don't even know how we got on this topic. Oh, because of Goddard closing. I was like, how did we get on the topic of Pizza Huts? But it was because Goddard closing. So that's how Kevin and I work.
Yeah. So we ended up with the final four were the 4 1 seeds. So we did a damn good job seeding it.
We did.
Thank you.
I would still argue with you over Chalk Dust being a 1 seed. I get it, but that was the most vulnerable to me also of the 1 seeds. And I'm really shocked, so to speak, that it made it as far as it did, because it went up against some good ones in the even Lizards in the last round. And before that, there was a couple that it could have gotten taken out, and the other ones pretty much dominated their whole way through to get in there. Like there wasn't a whole lot of closeness with them. And I wish we had set it up so Antelope and Fluff met in the finals. I don't think it really would have mattered. I think this is Fluff's year no matter what. It's just, and it deserves to be. I mean, it should be in there finally. I think it should have won last year, but I know the other song had to win finally. So, but it's good. I think, yeah, I agree. I see Antelope got screwed not playing Fluff in the finals, but still, I don't think it would have won. I think it would have been fun though. A good matchup of Fluff Antelope is kind of what the people wanted. Jen,
right. I haven't looked at the results or voted yet, but I'm assuming that Fluffhead is going to win by 2/3 to 1/3 margin.
It's already up pretty good. I just voted actually before we went on air, and I'll look at it right now. But yeah, Fluff's up 56 to 43 at the moment with about 450 votes in. So Jin may make up a little bit of ground in that, but I think Fluff's already is dominating, and I think it's going to run away with it. So
if we do it again next year, if this comes up again, it's going to be way wide open. I don't think there's going to be an odds-on favorite with Fluffhead out.
What do you think gets a #1 seed next year, since Fluff will be gone?
I think Lizards gets bumped up. Lizards gets bumped up in the same 3. The other 3 are the ones we had.
Yeah.
I know you're still questionable about Chalk Dust, but
I think, well, it's already there, so you can't really take it away from it, right? And it made it to the Final Four this year, so you can't just rip it away and make it a 2 seed all of a sudden. But although I'd say it's a different season. You never know. Maybe it didn't have as good of a year. But
right. So, somebody suggested when we have 8 songs retired, we do a mini bracket of those 8. And I was like, Tweezer will still win.
Yeah, exactly. I still think Tweezer would win that. Like, you can't put Tweezer in it. That's the problem. Like, it has to stay out of anything because it's just the best song that they do. So it's kind of, you got to keep him on the sidelines. Maybe after the next one you could do it. Right. And then you could have that 8.
Weekend Goose screwed over Antelope. That's funny. Tim is not going to be happy with being Weekend Goose, but
he's not.
What can we do?
He brought it upon himself. He wanted to do this, and he's doing it. So God bless him.
And he does a fantastic job. That artwork. I mean, I know we give him a hard time, but he puts in a lot of work on that artwork, and it is some beautiful stuff that he's come up with over the years.
I think this one's my favorite. I love the design, the sort of Junta looking design on it. I love it. I think it's so cool. And there's a lot of Easter eggs in there. If you go back and blow it up and look at it, there's a lot of fun little nods to some folks and some songs and some Easter eggs in there. So, I mean, he really did a great job. So
he certainly did. All right. It's the bottom of the hour, and we're going to tell you a little bit about Sunday morning, 10 o'clock. We're always around doing the Sunday morning thing. Maybe a guest will show up. I think we're looking at Low Faber towards the end of the month coming on because God Street has been blowing up lately again, which is weird to say.
I know, right? It's kind of like the Disco Biscuits. What goes around comes back around, and here we are. Right. I love to see it, but yeah.
You hang around long enough, you become relevant again.
Yeah, exactly. Or you become the bad guy. One or the other.
Next Tuesday to kick off Sphere Week, we're going to be doing 10/23/96 for the Wook Club, which is from Hartford. I listened to it today. Really good show. You're going to love the Antelope T. It's your straight up regular old Antelope, no goofy vocal stuff. Just we're here to do business. But it turns out I saw the next night. I didn't realize this, the Hampton show. So I have some context going in, but I've always felt, I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like fall 96, they were a little lost. They had done the Clifford Ball. They had become huge. Jerry was gone. And all of a sudden, once Jerry died, it changed the whole dynamic. By 97, when they came for summer tour in 97, they were a completely different band. So this is a strange little time to listen to them.
That's true. And 96 was also, this was also right before Vegas 96. This was October. This was like 7 days before they went to Vegas.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And went to Vegas and did the Aladdin show, which I was at. And it's still one of my top 3 favorite Phish shows ever. I mean, that thing is just a tour de force of fun and awesomeness. But yeah, so this was an interesting tour and an interesting time, in their history and where they were and what they were doing. So
and they emerged in 97 as something, the Cal Funk Gods, something completely different there,
which is crazy too, like how that evolved into that from this year. So it will be a fun show to go over. There's a lot of classics on this one, like looking at that set list and stuff, and you get your Chalk Dust encore.
Yep.
Like
which is a strange encore.
Very strange encore.
And then next week on Wednesday, we're going to have, I guess we're going to be doing a lot instead of live because it's the night before the Sphere. After the Sphere, 15 minutes, boom, us, the After Phish after show. And
set breaks. Don't forget
set breaks. Thanks for members. And you should mark your calendars 2 weeks from today on 4/24/24, the Wookies are going to be back, and hopefully we're going to have a guest pop in towards the end and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. That's exciting. We've reached out to our to our people that need to award the awards, and also reached out to the award recipients, and everything is going smoothly with that. So we will be really excited to present those. You guys will have fun watching that. There's some good things.
Let me ask you this: is MSG or Wook Plus leakier?
We usually try to keep it pretty tight-lipped. There's a few people that seem to spill things out of the bag. But yeah, you know, that's a good point. I think MSG is a little bit leakier than we are, though.
a little bit. I tell you what, the Grateful Dead were not leaky because I've never even heard of a Lost Hunter manuscript.
No, I am not either. This is kind of pretty crazy, and it's going to be like a book, I guess, is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
The Silver Snarling Trumpet has been set for publication. It's going to be out in October 8th, apparently, and it's going to have a forward by John Mayer in it, which should be interesting. So
I bet it's like that Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test book.
Yeah.
Kind of thing where it's just describing what's going on, and it's probably written in some like beat kind of language that's, you know, all hip, and great drops of blood formed on the ceiling as we dance. You know?
Well, it's interesting too, because it's at a time when he had just kind of met Jerry and started chronicling the band's early days, you know. So it's kind of one of those, what were they, you know, like how early on, what was going on in those really early days when they were playing the bookstore and like these other places, you know, and things like that. It's really ground level. So it'll be interesting to read it, you know.
Always found it so fascinating that in the start it was Hunter and Garcia. There was Garcia's original wife before Mountain Girl, Sarah, I guess her name was, but also David Nelson was there, and he's still kicking around. The David Nelson band just played out. He lives in Hawaii, and he only plays in Hawaii, but hey, he's got to be like 85 or something now.
Oh yeah, I would think. Yeah, I mean,
and that's where least, you know, right? Who got their start with David Nelson, or who got put on the map, was Barry Sless.
Oh yeah,
now he's playing with the Wolf Brothers. Yeah, you know, I used to see there was a band in Baltimore, Grateful Dead cover band called Section 8. Great name. And they used to play at this place called the 15 Mile House. Now, if you could look over the bar and put your money on the bar at the 15 Mile House, they would serve you. So I was there when I was 15, 16 years old, and Barry was their guitar player. And then all of a sudden he's playing with David Nelson, and then all of a sudden he's playing with the Wolf Brothers, you know?
That's awesome. Like, talk about like, how does, you know, from that to that, like, that's impressive. You know, like, how does that rise happen? How do you get through there? Like, that would be insane. So that's very cool.
Right. I'm with you, Jason. If I lived in Hawaii, I'd probably only play in Hawaii too. But
and just have everybody come to you, like, you know, like, why wouldn't you? What a great excuse! Just come over here and play. Well, let
me fly into Chicago in January and do a couple shows.
Right? Like,
nothing against Chicago people. We love Chicago. But I think that there, you know, the headline was kind of buried in that article for me because there was something else going on, right?
Yes, and as somebody mentioned a little bit ago, the Hunter 74 solo debut, Tales of the Great Rum Runners, is getting a deluxe reissue coming out. I think, when was it? I think, June 7th release is when that's coming out. But pre-orders are going on right now. So, yeah.
Right.
That should be interesting. I'm excited.
Garcia, an interesting fact, couple things about the album. It Must Have Been the Roses, the original version's on there, which is the only song that has Hunter, that the Grateful Dead did, that only has Hunter as a writing credit. Right? But it's the only song on the album that Garcia plays on. Garcia plays the guitar solo on it because Garcia just loved that song. I guess Hunter handed him the lyric and how he just the rudimentary stuff, and Jerry's like, I can't change a thing. That's just perfect.
It's too good.
There is the last track. There's 2 tracks on there. There's a political tune on there about Arizona, which Arizona Lightning, I think it's called, which is weird for Hunter to write a thing. It's about Nixon and something that happened with Watergate. But the last song on the album is called Keys to the Rain. If you've never heard it, it's a top 10 Hunter lyric for me. It's just I could something about I took a wrong turn and wound up in a ditch, but I could have done worse and ended up rich. It's that kind of thing. It just has some of his best lines in it. He was just so on point.
It's so awesome. Like that guy's, again, the lyrics from him are so good, like so phenomenally well written. So it'll be interesting to like get the
it was that government acid. He took part in the Stanford in '64. He took part in the Stanford acid test where they gave him the really good stuff and put him in a room and observed him for hours.
And that was what opened his brain and was like, you know what, I could write.
He probably like read Emerson. He probably just like absorbed, the spirit of all these great writers, because the man put pen to paper and it was gold. I don't think there are any weak lyrics. Well, I mean, there's some weak lyrics. Yes.
There's
Loose Lucy's kind of a little sexist, but not as bad as Money from that album, though. My God, that song is just, Bobby, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah. But when you write that much and you have that much in your catalog, not everything is going to be great, but you still have those in there, right? Like you still have the not so good ones mixed in with the great ones and the semi good ones, and it's just it speaks to how much he wrote.
Right, and often the not too good ones are better than a lot of what you get on the radio.
That's what I was gonna say too. Is even some of his bad ones are considered what we listen to today, and some of the lyrics that are written today are incredible. I did this thing a couple years ago for the Grammy Museum, and they were trying to get it was something about it had to do with voting and music and like some legislation that was trying to get passed about musical standards or something like that. And I went in to film all these these songwriters working on creating a song for this, and it was fascinating to sit down in this recording studio with these guys. And like one of them had written some of Mariah Carey's song, another one had written like some of like they'd all had like huge credits around them, right? And like I was just there filming them and kind of being a fly on the wall as they sat at this table and sort of worked, and watching them work though and come up with these lines and like a theme about the song and like what it was going to be was absolutely fascinating. And it's one of those creative environments where nothing is off the table, nothing is wrong. You just keep throwing shit at each other, hoping something sticks. Some stuff is crap, some stuff is good. And then it takes one little idea to spark everything. And somebody had mentioned, like the soundtrack to your life. And they were like, all right, let's run with that. And then they started talking about, like, what's it like when you hear that one song for your first dance? And what's it like when you hear that one song on your first kiss? And when you fall in love and then that's your song. And around that, they started really like, once they got the spark, they went at it and got these lyrics down and then went into the recording booth and started recording it and putting down the tracks. And that was interesting too, listening to those guys lay down the beats and find the right, and like all of that stuff. And it was the most fascinating shoot I've ever done to like watch the creative process happen. And especially with music, because I mean, I've always wondered, how do you write songs and then include the music? You know what I mean? Like what does that take to like come up with something good, not just something that's like la la la, you know what I mean, but good. And it was fascinating. It was one of the funnest things I've ever worked on. It was really cool to see it all come together.
Love Hurts, First Kiss by Nazareth. Did you see the
but on that point, Kev, you remember it stuck with you, right? That's how important music is. It stays with you, those moments, those things. It's pretty crazy.
7th grade, Chrissy Sawyer. God, I loved Chrissy Sawyer so much.
That's amazing. I love it. You still remember her too.
So much.
Bravo on the memory, Kev.
Have you seen the thing on Netflix or Amazon, wherever it is, about We Are the World and how they got that together in the behind? That is completely fascinating. But the camera guy, I read a thing with him that he got called in to do it, but he didn't get paid. At the end of the night, he's like, "Where's my check?" And they're like, "Oh, you don't get paid. You got to be here and see it."
Right? He's like, "Oh, great. I got to be here and film this. Oh, fantastic. I stayed up all night for that." I'll tell you what, though, like Lionel Richie was impressive as hell in that thing, to go from the Essence Award, like what was it? The American Music Awards that night, which, by the way, look how far we've come, because at that point it was best black artist and like best black song and stuff like that. You're like, oh my God, like real, like, wow. Hello. But that was super impressive that he like did that all night, then ran over to the studio and had to like deal with all those egos and the people and like put it all together and do that whole thing. And their whole thing with trying to get Prince to come, and that's why they had invited Sheila E. where they were hoping Sheila E. would get Prince to come over, and he never came over. And then the whole thing with Dylan, that whole part with Dylan was fascinating. That
they
couldn't
coaxed it out of him. The way that Stevie and Quincy worked with him to coax it out of him. Well, my weirdest thing though was Waylon Jennings. A country boy don't sing in Swahili or what the dude.
Absolutely fascinating documentary though. Absolutely fascinating. And again, one of those things where you don't think about what it took to do that because you think, oh, they just all got together one day.
The video, and you're like, oh, they just walked up and came in and
sang. And just did it and like hung out, and you're like, oh my god, wait, they did it at like midnight to 6 a.m. and like had like an all night process and had to do this whole thing together and get.
Dylan had to be difficult at 6 a.m.
He just couldn't get it, but that was fascinating to see Stevie work with him and get him, and then him singing it like his way. And seeing him kind of uncomfortable like that too, because here's this master of his craft being so uncomfortable in this other element, not being able to do it properly. It was really fascinating to watch. I agree.
Huey Lewis is a star. I think Huey Lewis got in because Prince didn't, right? Wasn't that the story?
Yeah. And I think he took Prince's line or whatever because he wasn't going to show up. So they were like, you sing, and he's like, oh god, I got to sing Prince's part. Nailed it. Like,
nailed it.
Fascinating to watch. Like, really fascinating. There was also a show on Netflix too called I just had it Sound Exploder or something, and it documents I think there's like Dua Lipa and a couple other artists in it where it documents that stuff, and it's fascinating to watch. Like, I really love watching musicians create and like that whole creative process. It's fascinating to me to see how they put that all together
and how they go about it. Like, some bands road test, they know the song in and out when they walk in the studios. Other bands rehearse a couple times, new stuff that's never been played live. And some bands with lots of money, I guess, just go in the studio and create on the spot.
Yeah, or like look at the Stones or whatever. You take off, you go down to some island, you hole up for a few months and get a bunch of good drugs and alcohol and create.
You end up with goat head soup.
Yeah, I mean it's fascinating to me. Like, musicians are just it's incredible. And the whole Beatles documentary. I mean, you watch that too.
Oh my god, that's just I could get lost in that. Watching him come up with what is it, Hey Jude or Let It Be, when he's sitting there on the spot and it materializes out of thin air. You're like, what is that?
That's what's so crazy. So like that process of them just like, oh, I have this idea, let me write this down, or let me just string these, let me start playing these notes, and then somebody else is like, oh, I'm gonna add lyrics to those notes, and then all of a sudden you've created this song, and then fast forward a few years and it's a hit, and then fast forward like 50 years and it's still like a classic song.
In the American songbook. I mean, it's in the popular, I guess, songbook because they aren't American, but
it's crazy. It's fascinating. Like,
canon all of a sudden. Lots of Grateful Dead songs are part of the American songbook, and somebody was like, we should have a whole festival just celebrating the Grateful Dead for days and days. I've heard some interesting stories from Jeff Mattson from Dark Star. Said that they would get emails from the guy who ran the festival asking what songs they were going to play, so they didn't get 6 Fire in the Mountains in a row one day. But apparently last year the festival was when Phish played, and it didn't do so financially well, and they tried again this year. And then what happened?
Well, that's what's interesting to me, is that they blamed it on last year, and you're kind of like, well, maybe you shouldn't have run the shows over the same weekend that Phish was at the Hollywood Bowl, because half of your audience is gonna like obviously not show up. Because even I was like, oh, I'd love to go to that, but I'm not missing Phish at the Bowl for it. So, and then not to announce it until the week of, like, it's supposed to be this weekend or next weekend or whatever, and they just announced it yesterday that it's not happening. And by the way, you're not getting a refund. Like,
or when your hotels, how do they do the whole accommodation? You figure the hotel, you have 48 hours usually you can cancel,
Exactly. And you're like, how? I mean, I feel bad.
We should let people in on the story if they don't know
that. So the Skull and Roses festival that usually takes place in Ventura every year, out of nowhere yesterday sent out a letter that just said they're canceling the show. They've done everything possible to make it solvent, and they've decided that nothing they could do would make it successful because they took such a bath on it last year on the attendance and stuff. And if they knew that and knew it was so bad anyway, I don't know what they waited till the last minute for, unless they were still expecting tickets or like trying to forecast what the ticket sales would be at the gate or like whatever coming in. But I mean, I guess when you bought your tickets in your hotel, it did say there's no refunds, which I mean, you don't really read that. You're like, of course, like, yeah, fine, whatever. It's not going to deter you from buying it. Because
I see no refund though. I think, yeah, if I screw up and can't go, I don't get a refund because I screwed up.
Right. And you're not reading the fine print where it's like, if for some reason we decide to cancel the show, we're not refunding your money, because then you're like, well, why would you cancel the show? Like, okay, sure. But what are the chances of that happening? Right. So
I think that there's two possibilities, because in my heart, I want everything to be good. Maybe some of the money that he came up front went to bands as guarantees that he can't get back. Right. On the other hand, the guy on my other shoulder is saying this guy had a lot of bills to pay off, cash grab. He's paying off his bills. Now he's okay. Our friend, I was talking about it on BlueSky, and our friend said, I smell a bankruptcy coming.
I can see that, in the crypto / NFT world, it's called a rug pull, when you invest in an NFT or something, and then the founders, after they've made their bag, just abandon the project and take all the money. And you're like, oh, I just got rugged. This feels exactly like that. Like, this feels like a total rug pull for a show. And to your point, I get it. Like, maybe if there was upfront fees, I mean, I'd love to hear some of the bands say, yeah, we got paid. I mean, they're not going to come out and say it, obviously, because if they say that, people are going to be like, oh, fuck you. Like, where's my money back? But it would be nice to hear if that's what happened, or if he, hopped on a plane and is now in like Martinique or something.
He's in Barbados.
Yeah, exactly.
Steal your face, more like steal your money.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. I don't know exactly what the law is here over that, especially because since it's written in their contract, as far as like, I think, non-refundable basis was sort of
by clicking here, you agree to 24
pages of content. Exactly. Some of those Ticketmaster, Live Nation bullshit languages that are in there that you can't get out of. So I don't know exactly with that, but I think it's kind of shitty anyway around. And I feel bad for anybody that was, especially out of towners, out of staters, flying in for it, and now we're like, what? Like,
right. I mean, there were lots of good bands. There like John Kay had a couple things that was called Sages and Spirits. Melvin was on a bunch of things. I mean, some of the guys from DSO were there. It was
and last year, if you remember, Kev, we had what's his name, the photographer on our show on Live right before this, and he was going to shoot it. Yeah, and he was going to go and shoot it, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I'll try and go. And then I realized it was the same week at a Phish. I was like, obviously I'm not going. But I mean, even he was involved in it. Like, it had some good things about it and some fun things. And I'm sure it was a really fun celebration and something cool. It's just, this leaves such a sour taste in your mouth for the whole scene and that whole thing. It sucks really bad. Really bad.
Yeah. That's, you can't show your face around town after that.
No. And our boy, our buddy David Gans did a little video thing for it too, talking about it, and was saying, he up until 2 days ago was doing his artwork and putting together the newsletter and doing all of this stuff for it, and even he was kind of shocked to find out that it happened. So I don't know how inside it really was and who knew about it.
It seems like this guy was in the back room shoving cash into a bag with the car running,
and kept everyone else like, oh yeah, keep going, and then all of a sudden,
just a minute, guys, I'll be right back.
Leaves this note on his door and takes off, and everyone's like, hey, where'd Bob go? And then they're like, oh,
you just hear a car pull off. Smoke still there from the tires screeching.
So bad, like, oh, it's so awful. Damn.
Apparently, Tim says Goose is still playing. He's like, damn, long set.
That is a long set.
I told him we were going strong. So, did you see this Texas
festival? I want to say real quick before you transition. Yeah, Mike, I did see, I saw something about that, and that is fascinating. Like 20 minutes, right? Like, that just tells you some people just have this genius inside of them that can just spit things out and hear a beat and let me just write the lyrics down to that real quick and I'll make a hip hop song.
I heard an interview with Hunter once where he talked about there were different muses, and sometimes he said, like Terrapin Station, I was given that song just as it was. I didn't do any revision. I put pen to paper, looking over the storm lash bay in San Francisco, and wrote "Let My Inspiration Flow." And it was like the invocation to the poem, and boom, there was the lyric. He took it to Garcia, and Garcia had the same thing happen driving. He heard all the music in his head, and boom, they put it together. They said it, took them an hour once they had the two pieces. And the same thing with Warfrat. I think they had a similar thing. And then other times you have like Touch of Grey that kicked around for years before it finally found its form,
when it like what it was. And I mean, even that, imagine Touch of Grey 5 years before it actually came out, right? Like what it sounded like at that time, because it sounds like such a song of the moment that it came out that to hear it early on or what it was before that.
80, I think 82, right? In October of 82 were the first ones. That and Throwin' came out. I mean, Throwin' too. They were released in 87, and it was a completely different world. Technology had gone so much further.
It's crazy. And I mean, I can't imagine though, you're just sitting there and you're like, let my inspiration flow and blah, blah, blah. And then it becomes this iconic moment in the song and like Jerry's line and like brings tears to people's eyes and shit. And you move people like that. And it's just, I was just sitting on my back porch and was like,
I often imagine Hunter walking into other worlds. Like, there's an old English ballad, Lady of Carlisle, which is obviously what Terrapin, if you see it, it's what Terrapin Station is based on. But it's also like he was in that world and decided to tell the story from his point of view. Stagger Lee, that's that whole song in New Orleans that all those bands did. He took it and said, hey, let's make it from the point of view of the woman. Yeah, brilliant.
The other side. Brilliant, right? Like the other side. Let's tell the story a different way and make the song like that. Right. And you're like, whoa. I
read a book in college called Grendel that was the story of Beowulf from the monster's point of view.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. You never thought that maybe this guy had some issues.
Exactly. And I think, to that point, I've said this, we talk Marvel a lot and we're kind of comic-y nerds, especially on our own threads in the background that you guys don't know about. But I say it to them all the time is like, I wish they would tell more villain stories, especially in the DCU. I was like, the DCU really missed out on not starting with like maybe a Lex Luthor origin story, but not letting us know it was him until into it further. And there's a lot to be told about telling the villain side of things as opposed to just always the hero story. And, when you look back, TV did that for a while. Like when The Shield came out and The Wire came out and those kind of shows, they were those anti-hero shows where you were like kind of rooting for the cop that just killed another cop. And now the whole show's about this, but you're like, he's a good guy. I'm going to root for him, but he's this real son of a bitch that it's very conflicting, but that's what like brings out that emotion. And it's the same thing in music. Like when you kind of tell that other side of the story, you're bringing out a different emotion in people and a different point of view. And it's really cool.
Right. I'm Hank Voight. Hank Voight makes me think of that from Chicago PD. You're like, fuck you, dude. You're such an asswipe, but he's fighting the good fight. You need people like me,
You always need it, right? And the villains always have a story. There's always a reason why they operate on that side of things. And sometimes it's a grayer side where you're like, well, I kind of see myself in that role sometimes. You know what I mean? And like, how do you stay good when there's so much evil? And how do you balance that out?
It's like, have you ever done the right thing and then found out it was a felony?
Right, exactly. Just like that. Or like knowing you have to like stop something from happening, which is, like you have to do a terrible thing to make sure something good happens type thing, right. So yeah, that's great. Hey, here's a fun inside thing right here from Jason. He wrote the lyrics of the theme song of this while we improved the song in the sound check. That's awesome. Like that's fantastic. And look at where we ended up with. Oh, it looks like we have somebody entering the room. It must be a Goose set break. Tim's late time for us. Hey,
sorry,
so how's that Goose?
My clock.
How's that Goose?
Goose, that's good, man. Listen, it's weird, right? I'm beginning this journey, and already I can tell there's like a lot of bullshit, right? Outside of the music, like online, and people telling you, oh, you have to love it, you have to hate it, whatever. So I'm not going to do any of that. I'll just tell you what I think. I think I might be 100% tonight. I was floating around the 80%, 75, 80% the last few nights. Yeah, see, you're the fucking problem, man. No, I'm just kidding. I love you. Dude, they just ended. You're not going to know anything I'm talking about, but they just ended the set with this song Tumble, and it was like a really, really solid jam. Like I was like digging it, really fucking digging it. But anyway, I'm happy to hang out with you guys. I'm all pumped up. Can you tell? I'm like fired up.
Have they played Animal yet in these 4 nights? Did they play Animal?
No Animal. That's the song, you know?
Yeah, that's the only song I know, and it's the one that reminds me the most of Phish because it's like about the monkeys and the swinging and stuff. I was like, okay, I like this song like because it's stupid lyrics and like that's what jam band lyrics kind of should be about, like stupid shit. So, but yeah. I don't know.
I was just saying that. Sorry, I was just saying that I'm not going to tell you what to do, but for you, knowing your taste, if you wanted to give him like another shot, tonight would be the night. Like versus the other nights. Like I think this first set is the most. I don't know. It's the easiest accessible from a Phish fan's perspective.
I like that because, like I said, the night I listened to the first full set for my first time ever, and it was the Moon Cabin night, and I was definitely not.
That was the weakest night.
I was definitely not. Yeah, I was definitely like, don't make me listen to this anymore. But yeah, I'll check it out. Like I'm always up for giving them a chance and seeing them. I still want to see them live because that's where it really comes out that I'd like to know how they are. But yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you're enjoying it though.
Yeah, I felt like watching the first 2 nights. And last night that they were stuck in the Bliss Jam thing. They hadn't yet. I guess the drummer needs a little more time in order so they can expand their palette more.
No, I don't think it's the drummer at all. If anything, I think Rick was getting stuck in. I personally don't think it's stuck, but I could see where you're coming from with that. I think of it as, in my perspective, as just super, super patient, like doing a very slow build on a jam where they just hate it. And you know what it's like? Only like half of you will maybe get this reference, but it felt like an opiate jam mixed with a Molly jam, right? Because it has the like thumping like Molly thing, but it's also kind of just like locked in like a K-hole type of thing where you just going and going and going and going on the same, you know.
And I think, Tim, to your point, one of the big thing is you kind of have to watch them and listen to them with blinders on, because once you start getting into all the outside noise and the crap, it's kind of a lot. Because even the other night when they spelled out Goose in the lights, and then the other night they made the bird in the lights, and I was like, everyone is in love with this. But when Kuroda did the fish and spelled out fish in the lights and made the little fish, everyone's like, this is crap. Like, it's so lame. Why is he doing that? Meh. And you're like, okay. Like one guy who's incredible at the lights, we're going to bitch about. And then this guy, we're going to be like, oh my God, it's amazing. They're spelling Goose in the lights. How cool.
I think comparing is a dangerous game, right?
I agree. I think you have to just
completely different things.
It's the same thing with the Dead and Phish back in the day, right? Like you couldn't say, "Oh, Phish is a dead band." Blah blah. No, Phish is Phish. The Dead are the Dead. Like you can't.
But outside of Destiny Unbound, Phish sounded nothing like the Dead.
Exactly. Well, and I don't think Goose sounds a lot like Phish.
Goose sounds like Phish either.
If anything, I would say Goose sounds closer to like.
Keep hearing it. Like maybe it's just me superimposing it, but.
I think you are a little bit, and no offense, like I don't mean this in like a judgment way, but I don't know that you have a super sophisticated ear when it comes to like the jams and stuff.
I would say it's more.
We're removing you.
I would say it sounds a little bit more Disco Biscuits-esque in some of the jams and some of that than Fishy, like just the way they get into those blisses and the jams and the music of it. But I mean, I need to listen to a lot more.
One song was like Gaiuti Foamy. A little bit.
Do they still have the rain stick guy?
Coach?
the make a wish member, I heard people call him.
Make a wish.
I'll be honest too. Even him, I'm torn on that guy. On Jeffrey. I'm torn on him, but he was there.
Okay.
No, Coach is the guy with the rain stick. Jeffrey's just the guy on the mini kit. He's in your girl's DMs.
Was he the guy who was yawning last night that everyone was giving shit for? They showed him on the live stream. He was yawning, and they were like, "Never show him again."
So what did you guys talk about tonight? What I miss? The
Nothing.
people that are watching right now don't give a fuck about Goose because
We talked about the Phish bracket. We talked about how we gave ourselves lots of attaboys for the seating for the Phish bracket.
The seating that has been set for like 5 years now.
We gave you a lot of props for the design. We really, the design was very cool.
And Kev was like, but the seating's all me. Go back and
No,
watch
I
the
did not
footage.
say
The fucking
that at
first
all.
8 songs were locked in.
Cultist Torture, I lobbied for to get in a 1 seed.
Yeah, it went from like the 5th overall to the 4th overall, but I will give you that. I think I wanted Antelope ahead of it, or no, Antelope was ahead of it.
Yeah, Lizards was the other one.
It was Lizards, yeah. Okay. I'll give you that. You got that right. Attaboy, Kev. Attaboy.
Thank you.
You do deserve that.
But let me ask you this, Kev. If Lizards had been the 1 seed, it would have gone up against different opponents, which maybe would have made its path into there easier too. So by the time, and maybe Chalk Dust, because Chalk Dust, like I said, squeaked through a couple rounds, it might not have made it as a 2 seed to where it got to. So you never know.
I do agree that our seating was spot on, though. Excellent seating. It's almost as if we've been doing it for a very long time. Did you guys talk about that Skull and Roses shit?
That's where we just
get back to that. What are you?
We were just talking about it. Yeah, we were just going off on that.
I would want blood. Usually I'm fairly understanding, and I'm not one of these people that like hates all business and capitalism and stuff. Like I hate unethical big, American capital, but like I don't like. Usually I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh fuck it. But this is just such a shady bullshit fucking thing to wait so long.
That's the thing.
And waiting, like fucking, oh, sorry, I wish we could, but we're fucking broke. Like,
and the bands had no idea, apparently, from what he said about David Gans.
And the thing is, Tim, to that point, is it's twofold on that. Like waiting till the last minute to say it, and then also blaming it on last year because Phish was in town and took away half the audience. So you knew that. Like you knew that was the problem going in.
Fucking management and planning.
It's terrible. And so then to blame it on last year, but then to cancel it a week before, you're like, well, you knew the money was down. Why didn't you wait and be, or at least send out a thing that was like
problem? They had hubris. It's the same guys that Fire Festival where they're like, they think in their minds they can do shit that they can't do, and they're playing with other people's money, and that's what's fucked up. I think honestly there should be criminal. I don't know like the law. I'm not a lawyer or anything, but
because it's in the contract. When you clicked and bought the tickets, you agreed to it. But
we were just talking about that though. SC brought that up. That there is. I'll have to look into this though and see what there is with regards to this. But like I was saying, like Kev just said, I'm pretty sure like Ticketmaster or Live Nation or whoever is covered by that by saying in the thing if you click here say this, you're buying it regardless.
They probably copy and pasted Live Nation's disclaimers and just use that.
I don't know.
But I got 2 words.
At that level, Kev. I think they probably had some lawyer look at it. But
probably, yeah.
He's all right. They're absolutely right though. The 2 words that are most applicable here are lawsuit.
Yeah,
yeah. I would think there's got to be something, or like you said, like bankruptcy coming, or something where
he'll declare bankruptcy. Everybody will sue him. He'll have to sell everything he owns.
Good though. He should. If you say I don't have the money, you better not have any fucking money. Like I'm not trying to like take away his livelihood, but like the bare minimum to fucking get by and nothing else. Like I'm so sick of these fucking millionaires and billionaires saying, "Oh, woe is me, I don't have it." No, fuck that. I know what it's like to not have it. You don't know what it's like. Sitting there in your fucking brand new car, taking people's money and fucking them over.
And you know what it's like to have to get the tickets in the first place and pay for those tickets and be expecting this show. And then to like, it's one thing to cancel it and like either get it postponed and like rescheduled or to get like your money back. But it's a whole other thing just to pull the rug out from under you and be like, no refunds. Sorry. Later.
Yeah.
Like what?
And the hotel, the hotel thing is the sketchiest thing because he has to have some deal with the hotels that, maybe he had to pay for the hotels 2 weeks before in order to secure rates for, we have to book X number of rooms. Maybe he had to pay guarantee to bands that are non-refundable from the band. You have Melvin Seals coming. Melvin might be like, I need $5,000 up front.
I have no doubt that the budget for the project has run dry, but I think there is other money right? Soluble assets that they could go to that he doesn't want from a business choice. And also the whole contract thing, like, again, I'm not a lawyer and I don't work in that industry. But in my industry, right, like in the professional world, you can have clauses to protect you, but incompetency is not, you know what I mean? Like, there's still a standard of care
for that.
Right, exactly. Like, you need to still do a certain minimum level. You can't just fuck off and then say, oh, sorry, the contract protects me, right? Like, you still have to prove that there was some effort made.
Yeah, I agree.
Weekend Goose Esquire. Yeah.
It will be interesting to see the repercussions from this, though, and what happens going forward with him and the lawsuit and the money and whatever, because it's not like he's just walking away and this is over. Like, I think there's a lot more to come from this, especially I think fans will try and file a lawsuit or something, or, you know, I'm sure there's some lawyers right now that have gotten calls that are like, I will take this case.
Have we reached the top of the bell curve for festivals? Are we looking at less and less festivals in the future, getting smaller?
No, I don't think so. I think the traditional model with like the sole promoter, the single promoter, and the massive cards, I could see that diminishing. But I think like Phish's model, like these niche festivals, maybe not like the one band festival, but like smaller cards and more you know, focused marketing, and I think that's gonna keep going because there's a hunger for it, there's a demand for it. So no matter how fucked up it is, right? Like, that was one of the first things that came back after like things started turning on. People could not wait to fucking schedule festivals. And well, it's even worse. You think like it's a wook thing, right? Like the hippies and the jam bands, but like the youth, as they say, the kids and like the EDM and all that shit, it's even more rampant right now. Like, people fucking love it.
Well, I think the key, right? Though, I think the what needs to happen is it needs to kind of revert back to, you don't need to buy a festival pass for every day. Like, you don't need to buy a 3-day pass. You know what I mean? Like, when Coachella first started, it was 2 days and you could buy individual days. Like, the first time I ever went, I just went on a Saturday and just saw the Saturday show, and that was fine. I don't think by getting trapped into a 3-day and having to pay an exorbitant amount for 3 days or whatever, and when half the bands you don't even care about seeing, and like one day you're like, I don't even want to go, I'm exhausted, like whatever. I think the key is offer them daily passes, which like the beach festival that's happening out here that Trey's playing at in a few weeks, they have that. They have the 3-day passes, or they have individual day passes. I'm like, well, that's awesome. I can just go the day I want to go, and I don't have to see everything else. So I think that is a solution in itself. I think that might help.
That would take the pressure off the infrastructure and like the logistics of it too, is if you treated it more of like a run, right, with multiple bands, but like you don't have to host and house all those people and all the water and the like shitters and all that shit. Like, you still have to do that, but I feel like it would take a little bit of the pressure off if people were going back to their own digs. You know, I got my own Airbnb or my hotel or whatever, I'm coming in. I think there'd still be a large contingent of people that would want to do the camping, fucking like,
right, and do the whole thing, right, and do the whole thing.
A lot of people wouldn't, because it could just come in for one day.
Or you have friends that are like, I can't do all 3 days, but I'll meet you guys there Saturday and fly or get out of there. But I don't want to have to buy a 3-day pass that I'm going to be stuck with if I can only go 2 days or 1 day or whatever, and then figure out how to get rid of it later, or like just eat the money or something like that. So
sometimes the 3-day pass, you can't leave and come back.
Yeah,
you walk in, you're there, you're for stuck all day.
Days, yeah, exactly. I don't know. I still think at some point we need to do a wook festival and get all the bands that we know, like Taper's Choice, God Street One, Crew.
I've been thinking about it for years. I had a thought of calling it the wook out, like a cookout, and like having it themed around music and like food, like because it'd be small, right? But have like, you know, like big barbecue grills, like it's smokers.
Can we do the pig?
Like Kev said, the pig.
Have a pig on a spit. Call it the wook out.
Yeah, and do it 2 days, like a weekend, 2 days, and you can buy individual day tickets.
Yeah.
What?
We didn't hear you, Kev.
What'd you say, Kev? What was your great joke? What'd you say?
So single day passes.
I still don't know what he said, but that's okay.
The passes. Yes.
The passes. So single day passes.
Single day passes. That's what I was saying. Definitely. You don't have to come the whole weekend. It's just
Jason. Let's do it, Jason.
So there was also a festival.
Jason, your band would be on the card, I think. So of course you'd be
we could do the 24-hour jam, the long jam too. Have a side stage We have the main stage with the main acts and the side stage that's just a continuous jam. And as the bands come off the main stage, they can just fucking go over,
rotate in and out.
jam for a little
They're all
bit.
loosened up, all greased up, ready to go.
This is the hubris that leads to fucking a festival getting canceled because we're just like a bunch of wooks having zero experience. Like, we're gonna do this,
And the workout becomes like 2 pieces of bread and cheese that you're eating, and like.
Well, you know, they canceled Peach and turned it into a one-day thing in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
This year, you know.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it's
that's a good point too. Is like there's different, like Tim was saying, you know, the EDM festivals and those kind of things are still, you know, kids are still into those. But the jam festivals are definitely getting sort of axed out and a lot less than they were for a while there. Even Bonnaroo's changed so much. So
there'll be no refunds. This
no, see, but that was just going to disagree with you because maybe it's just me, but just from my own being able to sleep at night, even if it took me 5 years and I had to work double shifts, I would not let that happen. Like, how the fuck do you live with yourself? Taking the money in a week before saying fuck.
You know how, Tim? You live with yourself on a very large pile of money that you just stole from everybody.
Barbados.
Why I'm destined to be poor for the rest of my life is because I don't have the, you know. I mean, I also have terrible money management skills.
St. John's is lovely this time of year.
Yeah.
I don't know. If I were in that situation, I would do everything in my power, even if it took. I'm not saying I could do it quickly, but no matter how long it took, I would make sure that I got that money back to people.
Right, and that's the kind of thing somebody would get a Wookiee for.
That is. Oh, are you trying to rush us out? I just got here, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say we just got new life breathed into us. Tim's here. Like we should even go back to the whole set.
I want to hear.
The numbers doubled when I showed up.
I want to see if he drops any hints or anything.
What about the? No, we can't do that. Although I gotta say,
hold on.
I reached out to are very excited. There's a lot of hype building up.
That's why I said that. I teased that. I said all the people giving the awards are all excited and have been contacted, and all the award recipients are very excited and have been contacted. So now we're
not all been contacted though. So if you didn't get contacted, there's still a chance I might call you. I mean, it's not likely, but there is a small chance I will be reaching out to you.
It's like publishers claiming you might get the call from Tim.
I had no response though from one of my people I reached out to, but we'll see what happens.
I could step in and help.
Oh, here we go. Let's see if Tim will bite on this.
Oh yeah, I didn't want to talk about it only because not because I'm like, oh, I want to stay away from it, but like I started to read the thing. I was like, I don't give a fuck. It's like some entitled people are pissing off other entitled people about something. Like I do not understand the desire or the drive to show up at 5 a.m. and fucking wait online to do that. Like it's cool if you do, but
see, that's the thing. If you do, then you're committing yourself to doing it, right? And that's fine. Where it gets fucked up is if somebody's like making a list and being like, okay, you're on the list and you're on the list, but you're not on the list and you're not on, like, that's where it gets
waiting out for tickets when there were 2 competing lists and you'd have to get the guy at Hex or Sears or whatever.
And I've had a deal.
Like a minute, or is it too like not?
No, I mean, it's quick. Like because I was actually a part of the list thing when it was in the Phish, and it fucking sucks. Like, because all those people that are on the list usually are friends anyway, right? And all know each other.
And they don't have to wait. Like they like come sign up and then like leave.
And then leave. Exactly. Exactly. And then those of us that are there waiting, even if you're in the front of the line, they're like, oh, what do you mean you've been here since last night? Your name's not on the list, so it doesn't matter. You're like, the fuck it doesn't. Like, no, like I got here to get my spot because that's what I do. I don't really give a shit that your friends got here this morning and are suddenly ahead of me on the list. Like, what? So that's where it's like gets insane.
You know,
and that's
it's weird for me because growing up, after the whole Who thing in Cleveland, when everybody got trampled to death, they started putting seats on the floor. You had no more GA. The only GA place I saw in the 80s or 90s was Hampton. So there was no need to there was no waiting in line to go in early because you had a seat. You were going to sit wherever you were sitting.
And I'll say this though about that, like rail riders get a bad rap. I mean, for numerous reasons, like that some of it is justified, some of it is not justified, because I mean, a lot of times you're just there and want to see your favorite band up close for once or twice or three times. It's once you start doing the entitlement and feeling like, oh, my crew's always up front. We don't have room for anybody else to get in here because we own this space is kind of bullshit. Like that's where it's right. But then it's also bullshit for people to think they can just show up during the show and push their way up front, Kev, and think like they're entitled to get that, because that's not how it works either. So there's, there are some rules to it and some regulations, but I think, Kev, I think to your point though, the way you solve it is you put the seats down there. Like at the bowl, when Phish played the bowl, the pool, they put seats in the pool area. So it wasn't just an open pit. And that kind of solves that problem with that. So, and as I tweeted out twice today, I think the real solution is let's just go back to tarping, right? Everybody loved the tarps. Let's just bring the tarps back.
In my defense, I did not even realize that there was a rail rider culture until the incident, because I only ever went to Merriweather shows and hung out on the lawn for all of 3.0. That was it. I had little kids,
That is true and accurate, but also bullshit. Because there's no way you contemplated anything that night. I talked to you that night. You should say, in my defense, I was super fucked up and have no recollection of my behavior.
Yes, exactly. That works. I agree. But yes.
Oh man. Anyway.
And the problem with the Goose thing is it's because it's what's her name's husband doing it, and she's already got a terrible rap for what she did with the GoFundMe thing, and then to have him be the guy that's doing it, it's kind of like a double whammy, and you're like, see, these are the kind of things that happen.
But at the same time, like I feel like
this is why we were not talking about this.
No, I do feel like people get so fucking invested, like it's like Days of Our Lives or something. But like, who gives a fuck? Honestly, like life's not fair. Shit happens. Like, yeah, it's not right, and like it's funny, it's interesting, but like, just fucking go and have a good time. And like, okay, you got scammed, but like, you also fucking gave your money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And I don't want to get like defender but I'm like, I feel like for your own good, it would be good to take a deep breath and step away and just enjoy the experience.
And go sit up in the balcony.
At all.
Go sit in the balcony. There's a balcony, and the balcony's got great views. Like, go. It's a little hotter up there, but it's fun. Like, go sit in the balcony.
If we want to talk about the rail, can we talk about the really tall guy? Because I'm like, I love him because he wants to be up on the rail too. And he deserves to have a spot on the rail, but there's a line of people behind him who saw nothing the whole night.
That would be me. Like, he would be in front of me too. I always get the guys that are tall right in front of me. And I'm like, I get it, but dude, can I like stand in front of you for like 2 songs maybe at least? Like, because I can't see anything.
Do you guys not like it doesn't? I don't know about the floor. That's like a different thing. But like, I'm usually like in the stands and stuff. I always look behind me and check out people's eye lines. And I talk to my neighbors like at set break and before the show. And if there's like a partners, right, or like a group, and like there's a shorter person and a taller person, I'll arrange my group or like work it out. And like, I don't think that's a very difficult or weird thing to do. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm right in front. I'm a big dude too, so it's like I have a height thing and a width thing. So I'm like, let me go in front of the big dude behind me, and get everybody a line of sight,
And I think that you're one of the exceptions to that, because I can't tell you, like, speaking from my own shortness point of view, I'm always like, no matter what. And now that like my wife's even shorter than me, it even happens worse to her. So like I try to move her to where she can at least see, even if I can't. Nobody ever turns around and says anything, unless sometimes if it's a kid, people will be like, obviously like, let me have it. But like, that's a really cool thing to do. And that's really nice, because if more people had that kind of etiquette and that kind of feeling, it would add to just the overall vibe of the show and the enjoyment everybody else gets out of it.
Dude, if you turn around and tell somebody, hey, you got a good line of sight move, you're making that person's night. Like beyond, like, you know what I mean? Like, it just makes it special. I'll tell you this too. If you're not going to do it out of the goodness of your heart, every time I do it, and this isn't why I do it, but like I always talk to my neighbors and stuff, they pass shit around, they share the wealth. You know what I mean? Like you create the little micro community for that night. On New Year's, we had a whole fucking vibe. I was there solo. I didn't have my way. And like, I did not feel alone. And like the whole thing was so chill. And I love that about this community. I would hate to go to a show and not feel comfortable talking to people. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, but not during the songs. I'm not a drummer.
And I'll say this, just speaking from like watching my wife deal with stuff at shows, it's a lot harder for women too at shows. Like the shit that they have to put up with is insane. Like even the guy sitting next to us one New Year's, like wouldn't like move his legs and made my wife like crawl over it so he got a good view of her ass like crawling. And you're just like, dude, Like, what?
Yeah, fuck off.
What the fuck? You know, and like they're just like, men suck, and I feel really bad for it. That's why like what Ashley does with Groove Safe is so important, and so it's necessary, because it's a real thing and it sucks, and you know, it's bad. And so even just doing what Tim does and asking people if they can see or the line of sight is such a friendly, awesome gesture. And to your point, it brings that around, and somebody is going to be like, hey, do you need a beer? Hey, do you want to hit this joint? Hey, you know, let me offer something to you for being that nice soul in this moment. So
yeah. Fucking let's be positive, people. Hey, on that note, I saw something today I wanted to bring up. It didn't get on the set list, but I mean, you guys may have seen this or heard this. Brownie, I don't know if it was him that was saying it or somebody was like quoting him, but it's this whole Disco Biscuits like mentality or aura that like the MVP fans are those with the smallest counts, the show counts, because they're the idea is that they're the future of this scene, and it's a little bit bullshit, right? But at the same time, it's a cool thought of like getting away from the gatekeeping and the fucking like flexing and puffing your chest down and being like, I've seen 87 shows, so fuck off, right? And it's like celebrate the people that have seen 2 shows and get excited about it.
Hanging out with the people who've only seen a couple shows is the best, because they're excited off the charts, everything, they're loving it, and you're just like, fuck yeah, pour hard, let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. Every song is new, and it's the first time or second time they've heard it, and they're like, oh my god, this is so much better than the last time I heard it, which is only the second time I've heard it, or like whatever. And so it is fun, definitely.
Like the first time they catch like a Yem or Fluffhead or something, like you could just see, or Hood, you just see like their minds melting, and you're like, yes, I remember that feeling
for the first time again, you know.
I will tell you that's what happened to me at Bruce. That was the first time I've ever seen Bruce, and I was that guy at the show. Like, I was emotional. I was like so excited. I was like watching the people around me singing the songs that they knew, but I was like, I don't know this song. Like, I'm just gonna kind of
ooh, this is cool.
Yeah, you're just like, this is so much fun, because it's so rare that you see something for the first time these days, especially a big band like that or whatever. And so to get that and to be like, oh my god, I'm finally here to see it. It was awesome. It just added to the awesomeness of the show. And my wife, even, who flew in that morning at like 10 a.m. from New York and was tired and was like, I'm not even a big Springsteen fan, like whatever. We got out of that show and she's like, that's one of the best concerts I've ever been to. Like, it was just, it's something about that too. It's really cool. So
I'm kind of experiencing that with this Goose experiment. And, you know, like once I kind of just gave myself permission to fucking like not worry about anything else and just enjoy it. Like, and also gave myself permission and not know everything about every fucking song. Because like we always get in the habit with this, and especially with doing the recaps, it's like, oh, I need stats, I need to know it. And I like last night I was talking to Greg before the show. I was like, I've never heard this before, but it was cool. Like I really, you know what I mean? And like experiencing things for the first time is kind of thrilling in a way.
How is Greg doing? I know he has a kid too.
Greg is fucking awesome. I've missed him because and it was so funny. We both had this realization on air. We both have 8-month-olds. I think our kids are our girls are like within a couple days of each other, and we were like, yeah, man, it feels like we haven't really talked in like 8 or 9 months. I was like, yeah, that's right. And because we're not like best friends, but like I always enjoyed talking to Greg and hanging out with him.
He's such a fun guy to talk to and hang out with.
He just has such a good head on his shoulders too. Just like a really good energy and fucking. Yeah. And does he know his Goose? It's impressive talking. Like, even if you don't like the band or the music, just seeing somebody that knows something that thoroughly and that like well is really, really fun to do.
Yeah, just so you know, Tim, next week we're going to be doing a lot instead of live.
Yes, Kevin announced we're doing a lot on Wednesday.
This motherfucker. Oh, what, for the Sphere? Yeah, that's fine. Fucking Kev, man. Just making decisions.
That's it. He's already told everyone.
Yeah, and actually, I'll give a little tease too. We might be doing a little bit of an overhaul. Well, I'm thinking we're starting to have some conversations. There's things that we've been talking about implementing and adjusting. And like, we like having our routine because it makes it easy for everybody. And I don't want to keep like, sending it out in small drips and drabs. So I think what we're going to do is work out all the details amongst ourselves and, maybe get the members in to like figure out. And then I think around the Wookies is when we're going to start to do this little overhaul of the channel. And it's all positive. None of the shit you love is going away, but hopefully it'll, enhance the experience, make it a little bit easier for us, a little bit easier for all of you that watch and enjoy it. And,
some rebranding.
Yeah, a little branding work, a little schedule work, a
freshen it up a little bit, maybe add a show or two in here or there or something like that, you know, and then we'll see. So I see set 2 starting, Tim. You should probably get going and we can end the show because we've gone over a little bit too. So
wait, somebody's coming out on stage. Who the fuck's that guy? Oh, I have so much to learn. All right, thanks, Kat.
Hey, maybe yes, Randy, maybe some new merch too. Yes, this could be happening. You never know.
Yeah, so I'll design all sorts of Goose themed book.
Vampire
merch.
Weekend. It's Vampire Weekend out there, Tim.
Is it? I don't know, man. All right.
Well, good seeing you, Tim. Go enjoy the second set, and the rest of you, we'll see you hopefully Sunday morning. And then don't forget what Kev said. Next Tuesday we got Wook Club again, and next Wednesday we'll start the lot with the Sphere Run. So get excited for some Phish coming back next week and post shows and intermission shows. So thanks everybody. That was awesome. Good to see you, Tim. I'm gonna run the credits. Vampire Weekend, huh? Interesting. CT. It should be the drummer from Taper's Choice and Vampire Weekend.
I still can't tell if that's a joke or not. I don't know what Vampire Weekend looks like.
You know CT, the drummer. Do they have 3 drummers on stage now?